Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 308 of the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. Check them out at PerformBetter.com. I'm your host, Anthony Renner. The show notes are located at ContinueFit.com. That's my site where you'll find all my resources. All right, today on the StrengthCoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner, I spoke to Coach Boyle about the Alex Natera in-service that he did for MBSC. Alex did some research on bilateral and unilateral training, so Coach Boyle had him in. We talked about his Coach's Minute segment, body part workouts, but I wanted to contrast that with the difference between splits, so we talked about that. And his post on the StrengthCoach.com forum, Are Internships Legal? So that's coming up in a little while. For the TrainHeroic data-driven coaching segment, Tim and Adam continued their discussion on the basic pillars of online marketing, and today they're going to talk about some Facebook marketing tips. Coach Boyle and I both use TrainHeroic to deliver our online training. They have plans that start as low as $10 a month, and they have a free 14-day trial. Mention that I sent you. You'll get a free 4-week athlete development program in your account, absolutely free, so you can kind of get a feel for what's going on or how things work, and that's from Coach Boyle as well. So if you're a coach looking for the best online training solution in the game, go to TrainHeroic.com. Take a free 14-day trial today. All right, for the certified functional strength coach segment with Brendon, Rearick, and Kevin Carr today, they continue a series called Learn to Coach, all the variables needed to become an amazing coach. In part 3, Kevin discusses programming. We talk about program design and how to go about structuring your program. For the Fit to Speak segment, Jenny talks about the importance of sincere apologies and how tells you how to give one. I'm laughing because, we see this so much. Jenny did an excellent post recently on social media about what a bad apology looked like. So look, we're all going to make mistakes. We're human. How you respond to those mistakes will make or break your reputation. All right, we don't have a Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment. I had some scheduling issues. I had to go see my mom down in Florida for some health issue stuff. So I just been running a little behind. But I do want to talk about Anomaly, the member experience platform for modern training gyms. Helps you build lasting relationships with your members so they stay longer and pay longer. Incredible tool. Really puts all of your communication with your members in one place. Especially right now, this is just such an important part. We have so many things. We're so scattered all over with whether that's email or different platforms and apps and everything. So this allows you to keep track of that communication, which is so important for retention. Again, we hear so much about marketing, but rarely about retention. So this is that tool that'll help you build those lasting relationships with your members so they stay longer and pay longer. Go to Anomaly.com. That's NAAMLY.com. You can check it out. You can schedule a demo to get a feel for what you can do with this incredible tool, and use the referral code StrengthCoach to get started on your free 30-day trial. All right, lots of things to get to, so let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com and MBSC.TV Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 30 days. Just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day answering questions. As always, lots of great discussion going on. Check it out at StrengthCoach.com. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, and how are you?
Doing all right. Spring's coming. I love the winter, but I love the cold weather. But I got to say, now that it's starting to get nice out, Emma and I went swimming the other day, so things are picking up.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm clearly a New Englander because I really like seasons. I like that, when it gets to be fall, and I like when it gets to be Christmas, and I like when it gets to be summer. And I'm not unhappy about that, I guess.
Yeah, I am not. I'm the same way. Coach, all right, so you've been having some folks back into the gym in terms of guest speakers lately, and everybody can see those on MBSC TV. Alex Natera came in, and I wanted to talk to you. I know he caught your eye when he had the research study about single leg squats. Give us an overview of that study at number one, and number two is, did you learn anything from his in-service or anything new pop up?
Oh yeah, I just was recommending it to someone the other day. Obviously, he didn't come. He zoomed in. We zoom in now. No one comes, but we've had a really good group of people that have helped us out with the winter seminar, and then we've had some other things. But Alex, he did the best job of explaining his research and explaining the math. It is so worth it. I was literally watching his presentation, screenshotting his slides, and emailing him at the same time saying, I'm screenshotting your slides. I'm going to use your slides. I'm going to tell people that they're your slides. Because what he did, which was really awesome, is he gave the example, and this is where it'll make sense for you right away. But he used the example of a 100 kilogram man squatting 100 kilograms. And so when you make it metric, it becomes really, really easy to understand, because, he looks like, because when you think about what he did, like an original one leg squat study, basically what he said was that they determined the weight in the seat of the plane. That was how they kind of used the way to segmentally break down the body. And they said effectively that 68% of the weight is in the seat. And people have heard me say this over and over again. But so you've got 68% of the weight in the seat. That means 32% of the legs. That means standing on one leg, you got 84% of your body weight. When we try to do that in pounds, it gets really confusing. So if I said I got a 180-pound guy and, 84% of 180 pounds is this, but when it's a 100-kilo guy squatting 100 kilos, it all is really simple math. So it's really graphic. And I never thought about how much better it would look in the metric system than it does in our English system. So just that aspect of it alone was really well worth watching. And then he went into the individual lifts, like, okay, if you split squat, what percentage? And I think split squat was something like, 68% versus 84% or something on the front leg. It goes, or, rear foot elevated split squat was 68 and split squat was a little bit less. I'd have to look up the actual numbers, but I mean, he just had data, which makes the unilateral case so much greater. I'm going to do a talk for Chris at Perform Better in June on like updates on unilateral training, really, and using Alex's example, and then looking at what we're doing. Because what we're doing is looking at slide board lunge, one leg squat, skater squat, and saying all of those, even though slide board lunge has the moving back leg, it's not contributing. So you're effectively, you're dragging 84% of your body weight, and then looking at those exercises and saying, okay, what are we going to chase? What are the numbers that we want to look at here based on Alex's research? So it really was helpful. One of the better, like for me, it was one of the more enjoyable talks.
All right, good stuff. I'll remind everybody you can see that on MBSC.TV. So, Coach, you also did a Coach's Minute video, and you were talking about body part workouts, but at first I was a little confused. And again, this is always going to be semantics. Some people doing like a bicep day or a pull day, I guess, only, and then a push day, I guess, and then a leg day. But what about splits? Like, for example, you have young players like football or hockey players that need to put on weight, and you want to get 4 days in. I know I did this with my hockey players over during quarantine, and it worked really well. They both put on 10 pounds and over about 3 months, and they were killing it. So we did a leg day on Monday and Thursday because they were still skating a little bit, but I didn't want to kill their legs too much because they had some skating. And then we did the upper body days on Tuesday and Friday. And, again, they were skating and needed some breaks. So talk to me about body part workouts, and about splits. Are you okay with splits?
Yeah, we split. So, if you looked at what we're doing, we basically, if you wanted to put our workouts in bodybuilding terminology, we do legs and back on one day and chest, shoulders, and tricep on the other day, right? Really, and because it's not straight upper lower split, because we'll pair our lower with our upper pulling exercises. So we might pair, chin up and trap bar deadlift as for instance, and, dumbbell row and one leg squat. And then the other day is just straight upper body, almost all, and it's like, for us, it's sort of a couple of presses and some prehab on that other day. But I think it's how you look at it. It's more when people say, I'm going to do a leg day. I'm going to do a back day. I'm going to do a chest day. I'm going to do shoulders today. I'm going to do arms today. If you simply upper body, lower body split, you could look at that and say, I'm going to do a knee dominant, hip dominant, and I'm going to pair it with, horizontal pull, horizontal push, vertical push. And it's so, to some degree, it's just asking people to use better terminology, better descriptive terms, or more importantly, not to do one body part. Like legs is easy. Okay, I'm going to do a leg day. You can kind of get away with that, I guess. But, when someone says, I'm going to go and do back today, like all you're going to do is just go in and do pulling exercises. Like that seems foolish to me. Or a chest, I'm just going to go in and do, 3 or 4 pressing movements. Again, foolish in my mind. And I think that's what people don't understand is that, hey, this is me posting what I think. You don't have to, I'm not saying to anybody that this is the only way to think or that you just have to agree with me or you just have to do what I say. All I'm saying is, hey, this is what I think. This is what I believe that we should be doing.
Absolutely.
What? People can choose to agree or disagree. It's very funny though. I was saying to somebody, the other day, is that it borders on like religious kind of fervor, the way people will get excited, angry. It's very, it's amazing that you can look at it and think politics, religion, and strength training are the 3 things that really get people going in our world.
But the thing is, I agree with you. And I think for me, part of the reason why I had a quote unquote leg day was because it was a hockey player, a 16-year-old hockey player. And, all right, everybody says their kids are elite. This kid goes to Kent. He's going to Division I. I need to prepare him for what's coming. He's a little on the small side, size-wise, so I need him to gain weight. I need him to be strong. And so I needed to spend a little bit more time on those legs at the time when I could, because I don't get that opportunity. So from March to June last year, we killed it. I had to, because I had that opportunity. They weren't skating as much. He had time to recover. So for me, that was the way to go. And I think why people get so crazy is because we're so tied to results. So for example, the next time this comes up, I'm probably going to do the same thing because I had great results with these guys. And it's a little like queuing. Sometimes queuing doesn't work. Like push your butt back to the wall doesn't work. Jump up to the ceiling. It doesn't work for some people. You have to come up with a new cue, so you can't be tied to things. So you're right. People do get so crazy, but I do think it's because they've seen success maybe with that program, whether that's with themselves or with their some of their athletes.
Yeah, and I think some of it is just that it goes back to that's the way they've always done it. That's the way they were taught. That's the way they were brought up. As I said, me, I always think the way that we do it is the best way to do it. And I say to people, if I didn't think it was the best way to do it, I would do it a different way. And I guess that's what people have to understand is, again, we're all very eligible to have our own thoughts, our own programs. But what you realize is that there's just so many people doing it poorly that I mean, I used to try to say, don't copy other people's programs. And now I've gotten to the point where I'm like, actually, no, just copy ours because it'll be easier than you trying to mishmash a bunch of shit soup together like people tend to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Coach, interesting discussion right now going on the site. Are internships legal? You brought it up, and you posted the Massachusetts guidelines, and one of them was does not displace regular employees, but the intern works under close supervision of the existing staff. And, and you mentioned this, that number three or number four, I forget what that was. That was number three.
That's number three.
Yeah. And so that, you're on the thin line there. And, you even mentioned that only because, like, I guess the idea was it's how you interpret it, right? So you're using those interns, you're not using them in that way, but your guys are coaching the interns, or obviously we know they're getting a lot out of it. We've had so many testimonials of how great that internship program was, how much people got out of it, how many coaches went on to bigger and better things. And so I think, though, there's this idea about how we interpret, would you be able to in those busy seasons, would you have to hire 3 more coaches or 2 more coaches? Talk to us about this thread. This is a really interesting thread.
It is. It's a really interesting thread. I think what you have to do, and this is the way the law is you have to look and say, okay, it's sort of, it gets very Bill Clinton-esque in terms of, hey, let's define displace, right? So if I look at definition, to remove from the usual or proper place, to expel or force to flee, right? I don't think that we displace employees. I think there may be times where we do not add additional employees, but that's different than displacing. The idea for internships, and this is what I said, Major League Baseball got in trouble because they got rid of promotional staff and gave those jobs to interns. That clearly displaces staff when you look at, but you do get into, okay, what's the legal definition of displaced? Because there's probably another word for causes not to be hired. You know what I mean? Like we would not necessarily, we might not add summer help, but, when you look at, there's a lot of you look at restaurants on the Cape and au pairs, and there's so many places where, people, and, obviously sometimes they're paying people a small amount of money, but the idea is that no one's displacing a worker. Like you didn't say, oh, I'm eliminating X number of jobs, and now those jobs will be filled and performed by interns. So I think so for us, and that's the only one, like you said, when you really look at it, it's the only one that's even close, because if you look at number one, is similar to that which would be given in an educational environment. Absolutely. People will always say, I learned more during my internship than I did during the time that I was in school, is for the benefit of the intern. Clearly, absolutely. And I said that on the, on the thread. This is undisputable in our situation. Then you get does not displace regular employees. We've never displaced a regular employee ever. And interns work under close supervision of existing staff. That's exactly what happened. So, and that's the one that somebody could look at and say, well, like you said, well, that's kind of a gray area. And it is kind of a gray area. If someone said, but I think they would need to change the word displace. And the reality, and this is what I said to a lot of people, is that if this was not legal, there would be significantly more challenges to it. And there aren't, because it's not like Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning invented the internship and we're the only people doing it. It's happening, in every business, marketing, sales, everything that goes on all over the world. People are taking summer interns, but they're not taking those people with the idea that, oh, I have work that needs to be done that I used to pay an employee to do that I'm now going to get done for free because I can bring in these interns. So that, and again, that's my interpretation. And the other thing it says, provides the employer with no immediate advantage. We don't get an immediate advantage when we take interns. we get in some ways an immediate disadvantage because we have to spend an extensive amount of time training them. And then, doesn't entitle them to a job, is based on the mutual understanding that they're not entitled to wages. Like, it's just the word displace that makes it like you get into a little bit of like gray, maybe kind of thing.
Coach, what about this idea about paid internships or unpaid, and this idea that, it will, for some kids who come from a low income family, might, they have to work over the summer. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll be honest, and I will probably get some really negative backlash, but in the vast majority of cases, I think people use that as an excuse. And in the small minority of cases, if I had someone come to me and say, okay, I am from an economically challenged background, I would really like to do an internship at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning, but I absolutely need to work another job in the summer. I have always made that work for that person. I've said, hey, tell me how many hours you can work. And you can intern, if someone said, I can afford to intern, 8 hours a week, I can give you 2 hours a day, after I get out of work. Perfect. We'll do that. And I've never not done that for somebody. So I think too often people use it as an excuse. Yes, I get it that a 40-hour internship, the conventional school replacement type thing that people need to do may be a real, almost a no-go for somebody who is not in a great economic situation. But I think the key to that is that those people just need to go and say, like, if you just are upfront and honest and say, hey, I need to work. I got a 40-hour week job. But I look at guys, we've had so many people. I can remember Brajesh Patel going home every weekend to work in his parents. I think they had a catering business or a banquet business or something. But he worked basically all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and was back on Monday ready to work. I've seen people do it and still find 40 hours a week to have jobs and still be able to do the internship and gain from the internship. So I think people are using that as an excuse sometimes, which I don't think it's as valid. Yes, there probably is a small number of people for whom that really applies. But when I look at the people that are complaining about it on Twitter, I don't think the other people to whom it applies.
Yeah, and I don't want to be when I was a kid, but you're right. I think if you really want it, you'll find something, you'll make it work. So for me, when I was in the bar business, I was managing a bar, making pretty damn good money, and I decided to switch over to the training industry. And what I did was to kind of maybe convince my wife to let me do it. I started caddying that year before I got a job at Equinox. So that year in April, May, I started caddying at 36.
36. So you were a 36-year-old caddy.
Yep. I have a degree in marketing. Good career.
Right. People look at that and people don't want to do. That's my point. People who want to be successful find a way. People who don't want to be successful find an excuse. I was a bartender. I worked, and I said, my wife and we worked Friday night, Saturday day, Saturday night, Sunday day. We did it all the time, over and over again, because those were the big money shifts. And I did that so that I could coach. I was making $0 coaching. So people would say, oh my God, Boston University, abused me, took advantage of me. I never felt abused or taken advantage of. I was doing exactly what I wanted to be doing. And I was pursuing gainful employment through finding other employment that worked. Like, I look at people and think, you could drive an Uber, you could be a security guard. Like, there's a million things you can do if you're willing to work, a 12 or a 16-hour day. And that's the problem. There aren't enough people who want to be successful who are willing to work a 12 or a 16-hour day. There are people who want, I'd like to work 8 hours, and I'd like to get, I'd like to make $100,000, and I'd like to have, health insurance. And it's like, well, that's great. Let me know. Let me know how that works out for you, because that ain't happening in fitness or coaching.
Yeah, so it's true.
And that would be an unpopular take for me on my side, and it sounds like, the old white male take. I walked, uphill to school both ways kind of deal. But I absolutely, positively believe that, and I've watched it happen. I can tell you, Danny Gableman, Danny's at Union now, has been at Union for a long time. but I wanted him to intern at BU, and he was like, Mike, I don't have a car. All right, I wanted him to intern at MBSC rather, and he was at BU, and he was helping me, and I was like, I literally said, Dan, you come in, you ride 5 to 10 miles on the Airdyne every day in here. I said, get a friggin' bike and get your ass to Woburn. I said, because if you want, don't tell me you want to be a strength coach and then complain to me that, that you don't have a car and you don't have a ride, and then come in here and ride the bike for a half hour. You know what he did?
Got a bike.
Got a bike. And he rode from Boston to Woburn to his internship. Christian, who's on the site.
Yeah.
Christian rode 45 minutes each way to train. He lived in Newburyport, and he rode his bike 45 minutes to North Andover to work out, not even to coach, to work out. And then rode his bike 45 minutes back and stayed in a youth hostel or something when he was down here. It's like, if you want to be successful, there is going to be sacrifice, and people will recognize sacrifice. Les Spellman, who I just did a podcast with, who's doing a really good job out in San Diego with speed development stuff, he slept in his car for 2 months when he was out there in California trying to get himself established. And, not that anybody should have to do these things or aspire to do these things, but you realize, Jonas Dodu went to, same thing, slept in somebody's couch when he interned at Altus. Now he's succeeding massively back in the UK, as a speed development guy. You have to be willing to make some sacrifices, and some things that people would consider to be absolutely outrageous, outlandish, to be able to get what you want. But I look at it, I was a volunteer / part-timer for 10 years, 21 to 30. Some people would look at it and think you were crazy. You were going to BU every day, and you were making practically nothing, a couple $1,000s a year. And I was like, yeah. And I thought it was the coolest job I ever had. You know what I mean? I couldn't believe, I'm not coaching at Malden High for $1,000 in the fall. I'm coaching at Boston University for $1,000 in the fall. And I'm working with, the greatest hockey players in the world, or the, Division I AA football, or, 1A basketball, with guys that are going to go on and coach in the NBA. You got to be willing to do that if you expect to be successful. And I don't care what field that is. But
yeah,
I believe
you're right. And I think like you said before, people do recognize it, because when you have that extra hustle, people know what's going on. I was, like you said, I was working in the Bartle. It was New York City, so we didn't close till 4, and I was running the show at the time. So I didn't get home. I was living in Westchester. I didn't get home till 6:30, 7. So to go caddying, I would go caddying at 9:30, 10 sometimes. And so, then you're out there for 4 hours, come home, obviously you're sleeping, but then I'd have to go back down to the bar. But, it was worth it to kind of be able to say, cool, I got a couple months mortgage saved up in case, things don't go right at Equinox. But I think then what it makes you feel like is, once you get to that job, now I'm like, I am not sitting in this room. I'm going and color coding the body bars over there. I'm going to put every weight plate. I'm going to be on that floor. I'm going to go meet everybody I can, because you're working so hard the other way. And I think so many people in a higher position, they recognize that, and they want to. I remember I worked for Starbucks, believe it or not, because I was trying to open a coffee bar. So I was going in extra during my 2-week training period. I swear to God, before I even got behind the espresso bar, they asked me if I wanted a shot at this marketing job that was coming up, because they knew I had a marketing degree. And I said, oh, no, I was really just there to see what they did and learn about being and how the best coffee bar does it. But they saw that I was coming in on a Sunday night to read the employee manual, and they were like, we want this guy to stay here. So I think when you show that, you're right, people will recognize it, and the relationships that you build, that's what's going to help you later on as well.
Oh, we're absolutely, positively, without question. And that's what I mean. I hate to say it, but I see some of these people on social media, and I look and I think these people are whiners. Don't whine. Don't cry to me about, I went all the way through school and now I have to take a terrible internship, with this team. And it's like, if you didn't investigate that, and I think we've talked about this before, but if you didn't investigate this field before, and if you didn't know that this was what's going to happen, then you're pretty stupid. And then to get out, to have sort of the nerve to complain about it and to think it is literally, to me, it is the entitlement of a very entitled generation of people who just think, well, if I complain, people will just hand it to me. And I look at it and well, I'll be honest, and maybe I am just that old crotchety old man now, but I'm not handing it to anybody who complains. And the fact of the matter is the people that complain, you're last on my list. Okay. And, to the point of you're never like, I'm never hiring the person who's whining about, I should have a paid internship. I shouldn't have to do this. I should get, I'm not getting a fair wage for my work, blah, blah, blah. Hey, this is the way this field has always worked, and it's not going to change. And if you think that, again, maybe if you work really hard, you'll get the power to change it someday. But realistically speaking, it is always going to be a pay your dues kind of profession where you do some free work out of the gate. If you look at coaching's the exact same way, right? You got to go someplace and you got to be a graduate assistant, even though you don't want to go to graduate school. But the only way you get the coaching job is to take the GA job. And so you take some graduate courses and you work your ass off coaching and you work way up, and eventually you get a job where you get paid a lot of money. But if no one who, if you don't go through the route, you don't have the opportunity. I don't think it's any different in strength and conditioning. And I don't think it's that much different in fitness, because bosses, people in charge, they want hustlers. They want people who've got that, like I said, I'd look at a guy like you and think, are you kidding me? This guy was working at Starbucks. This guy was caddying. This guy wants to do this. He's taken jobs that were so far below kind of his age and ability level. But, something you looked at and think, I don't care. I can make a lot of money fast doing this, right? It's like I said, like with people now, driving for Uber, there's the gig economy. There's always ways to find. I used to always say, like, now, the number one thing that I would be doing if I was in the working world right now and I needed a second job, I'd be a security guard somewhere, because I could sit and listen to podcasts and read books and figure out ways. I'm double dipping. You know what I mean? I'm doing all my internet stuff that I'd be doing normally anyway, but I'm getting paid for it. So, suddenly I'm working 5 or 6 hours a day. I'm getting paid. But during those 5 or 6 hours, I'm using that time to get better. I'm gaining, I'm getting paid double effectively for the time that I'm putting in.
Absolutely. I got to say, I'd still go back to bartending from a fitness perspective, just to, how do you meet more people? Just, hey, I'm a trainer. I have my own place. I'm training over here. You're going to meet so many people. That's where you get the connections. So yeah, I agree. You're right. The gig economy. I love it.
But it's so true. And it's getting more true all the time with people. But I just, like I said, I don't have any room for the Twitter whiners on that particular topic.
Absolutely. Well, there's your discussion on internships and whether legal. Check it out. There's a great discussion on strengthcoach.com about it. So, Coach, thanks so much for doing this, and we'll speak to you next time.
All right. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
All right, hey guys, just a reminder, Perform Better has been doing their weekly webinar series every Tuesday. Coming up this Tuesday, April 6th, Dwayne Carlisle is going to do winning strategies for generating a 7-figure net worth for fitness and sports performance professionals. Guys, these are free, and they've been doing them every week. We got upcoming webinars from Josh Henkin and Jessica Bento, Emily Splickle, Gray Cook, Dan John, Dan Kleckner, and Vince Gabriel. Coach Boyle just told me on the podcast today that he's got one coming up as well. And don't forget also, the app is live. It features amazing presentations from last year's virtual summer seminar series, as well as some of the presentations from the earlier functional training summits, and it's all free. Check it all out at performbetter.com.
Welcome to the Certified Functional Strength Coach segment. My name is Kevin Carr, and this is the Learn to Coach series, where we discuss all the variables that go into becoming an amazing strength coach and personal trainer. In this series, we'll cover everything from communication to progressions and regressions, and even exercise selection. In our last episode of Learn to Coach, Brendon Rearick discussed how to put together an assessment workout so you can introduce a new client to a training program and determine which exercises to use when building that program. In this week's episode, we're going to follow that up by talking about program design and how you can go about structuring a basic training program for your group and personal training clients. A well-balanced program should address mobility, warm-up, power development, strength, and conditioning. It should be programmed and implemented in the following order to ensure an optimal training outcome. All programs should begin with foam rolling and active mobility drills to reduce tissue tone and improve tissue extensibility prior to higher intensity activities. Clients should go through a full body foam roll in about 5 minutes, followed by a 5 to 10 minute active stretching session to focus on improving and priming mobility in the hips, thoracic spine, shoulders, and ankles. After the mobility portion, we should next move to the movement preparation and warm-up section of the workout. Overall, this entire section should only take about 10 minutes, but it is an important step to prepare the body for the rigors of the upcoming training session. In this section, we should begin with static movements like bodyweight split squats and single leg deadlifts for active stretching, and then progress towards dynamic athletic movements like skipping, shuffling, and backpedaling to develop movement skills, increase body temperature, and prime the central nervous system for the high intensity training that is about to come. Next, we should progress to light implement power drills like jumps, hops, and bounds in medicine ball throws. These drills should be incorporated both for athletes and general population clients, albeit at different intensities to accommodate the client's readiness, skill level, and injury history. The ability to rapidly produce and absorb force is beneficial both for competitive athletes as well as for the adult clientele to maintain functionality as they age. It is important to place high-speed, neurologically demanding movements like hopping, jumping, and throwing early in the program, before strength training, so you will not be performing them while you are fatigued. After completing plyometric and medicine ball drills, you should head into the weight room to begin heavy implement power training as well as strength training. The guiding principle here is similar to that of programming plyometric and medicine ball drills. You should program heavy implement power drills like hang cleans and kettlebell swings prior to heavy strength training exercises because of the high neurological demand they place on your nervous system. To ensure you can perform these exercises at high speed and are not excessively fatigued, cleans, swings, and loaded jumps should be performed before slow, heavily loaded exercises like squats and deadlifts. After our heavy implement power drills, we should progress into the strength training portion of the program. It is important to distribute all of the different strength movement patterns evenly throughout the workout program over the course of a week. Ideally, each day should include an exercise from each category: knee dominant, hip dominant, push, pull, and core. Distributing exercise selection in this fashion will ensure that you are developing the entire body evenly. In an interest of saving time and being efficient, you should look to program all of these exercises in either pairs or trisets, pairing or grouping 2 or 3 exercises together at the same time and performing them in a back-to-back and alternating fashion. It is important to pair or group exercises that are non-competing, meaning they are not targeting the same patterns or muscle groups directly. Creating pairs or trisets of non-competing exercises will allow you to be more efficient in that you are training one exercise while simultaneously recovering from another. Typically, we'll include 2 to 3 trisets in the weight room over the course of an entire workout. Finally, we want to move to the last portion of the workout, conditioning. Utilizing high-intensity interval training with modes like running, the assault bike, and slideboarding, we can work on improving the client's aerobic and anaerobic energy production while also being efficient with our time. Typically, the conditioning section of the program only takes about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the training program, and we will vary which mode of exercise that we use throughout the week. Ultimately, the program should take about 60 minutes so that you are efficient with your time and so they can fit into a commercially friendly model. All clients, both athletes and general population, should take part in all sections of the program. A complete functional training performance program should not just focus on the development of one single component, but should strive to develop movement quality, strength, power, and cardiovascular fitness concurrently. The variable demands of most sporting environments and the interconnected nature of the human body require more than the expression of a singular capacity if one hopes to achieve success and longevity in both sports and life. As we always say, training is a recipe, not a menu. You can't just pick the things you like. You need to account for all the ingredients in a program for a successful outcome. That's it for this week on the Learn to Coach segment. I'm Kevin Carr, and for more information, head on over to certifiedfsc.com and check out our blog and see what courses we have to offer. Thanks for listening.
All right, hey guys, I do want to remind you that there is no Anomaly Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, but I do want to talk about Anomaly really quick. A reminder, it's the ultimate retention tool designed specifically for fitness coaches and gyms to help your members stay longer and pay longer. Right now, guys, so important. You got to build that culture. You got to keep building those relationships, keep the communication lines open, and Anomaly puts this all in one place. Just go to Anomaly.com, NAMLY.com. You can schedule a demo. That's really what you want to use. Just give you a feel for what they can do there. And you can use the referral code StrengthCoach, and they'll give you a free 30-day trial. Check it out at Anomaly, NAMLY.com.
Welcome to the Fit to Speak segment. My name is Jenny Rearick, and today we're going to talk about how to apologize when you make a public mistake. This past week, the NCAA received national attention for the equipment they failed to provide to the women's basketball teams during the national tournament as compared to the men's teams. As a formal NCAA student athlete myself, it was embarrassing. As a communications coach, it was frightening, and I want to tell you why. Just a couple of hours after the initial photos of the women's gym setup, or lack thereof, was published, the vice president of women's basketball at the NCAA, Liz Holzman, made an official statement. She said, quote, "We acknowledge that some of the amenities teams would typically have access to have not been as available inside the controlled environment. In part, this is due to the limited space, and the original plan was to expand the workout area once additional space was available later in the tournament. However, we want to be responsive to the needs of our participating teams, and we are actively working to enhance existing resources at practice courts, including additional weight training equipment." There are two major issues with this statement. First, there was no apology. No admission a mistake was made. The words "we're sorry" or "I'm sorry" weren't included. Second, it was laden with jargon. She used the words acknowledge, in part, responsive, enhance. These words are as impersonal as you can get. And if an apology needs to be anything, it needs to be personal. There's a lesson in this for all of us, and that is that we need to know how to apologize. Having the humility and the ability to apologize is a superpower. It's the one thing that can save our butt when we make a mistake, which we will. So I want to talk you through a 3-step apology process. And that is, first, think. Second, apologize. Third, act. What does it mean to think? When you make a mistake, especially if it's out of character, you need to do some detective work on why and how it happened. Asking yourself things like, what led you to make the mistake? Were you acting on bad information or insufficient information? Were there external or internal pressures? Or was there an unexpected emotional event? And then secondly, is it possible that the mistake or one like it could happen again? If so, what can you do right now? What measures can you put into place that will reduce the chances of it happening again? When you take the time to reflect on what led to the mistake, you go back, you look for signposts that you failed to see the first time. The next time you're walking that same path or one just like it, you can stop yourself and say, okay, this looks familiar. The idea is to become consciously aware of the internal and external factors that led to the mistake in the first place, because awareness is what puts you in control. Once you know more about why and how, then you need to apologize. Apologies are best done face to face. That way, the person or people you're apologizing to get the added benefits of seeing you and feeling your physical presence, which can help them judge your sincerity. If face-to-face isn't an option, the next best option is FaceTime or another video chat service. Then followed by a phone call if that's not an option. And if a phone call isn't an option, then a written apology. When you start your apology, the first thing you need to do is admit that you made a mistake. And then, as precisely as possible, explain what that mistake was. What specifically did you or didn't you do? Once you name your mistake, you need to say, "I'm sorry." Not "I apologize" or "my bad," but "I'm sorry." And what are you sorry for? I'm sorry for the harm. I'm sorry for the damage. I'm sorry for the confusion my mistake caused. The more specific you can be in articulating what resulted from your mistake, the more willing people will be to accept your apology. Once you say "I'm sorry," you need to explain what you've learned about your mistake. This is why that reflect step is so important, or that thinking step is so important. And then what steps do you plan to take to prevent it from happening again in the future? People want to know that you know why it happened and how you're going to prevent it in the future. Paul Bear Bryant, who was the old Alabama football coach, had a sign above his desk that read, quote, "Don't try to hide behind anything or anybody. They're going to find you anyway." What this means is that the truth will always come out. And when it does, you want to be on the same side of it. The final step is to act. Do whatever you can to undo the choices that you made that caused hurt or damage, and begin taking the action steps you committed to prevent the mistake from happening again. Taking immediate action after your apology gives traction to your words. It's how you begin to rebuild your reputation and credibility in the eyes of the people your mistake impacted. We're all going to make mistakes. We're human. We can't expect ourselves or others to be perfect, but we can expect an apology. And our apologies need to reek of integrity. Our apologies need to prove to the person or people we give them to that we are the person they thought we were. We just made a mistake and we're sorry. So what the NCAA's statement should have said is, "We made a terrible mistake when we chose not to give our women's team access to the same amenities as our men's teams. We're sorry for the hurt we've caused and will correct our mistake immediately. This mistake is a reflection of the culture of the NCAA, a culture we need to and will change." That's what I have for you today. If you liked what you heard and you want access to a PDF that details what you just listened to, visit the Fit to Speak website, www.fit-to-speak.com. I also offer one-on-one coaching. If you're looking for help building and designing a presentation, you'd like to improve your speaking or presentation skills, or you're planning for an important professional conversation, email me directly at fittospeak@gmail.com, all one word.
Hey, this is Adam.
And this is Tim.
Welcome back to the TrainHeroic Data-Driven Coaching segment.
Yeah, baby.
Last time we touched on Instagram and some tips about different kind of content there. We're going to pivot a bit and talk a bit about Facebook. So, you might kind of think, first of all, is the Mark Twain quote, "Reports of my death are greatly exaggerated."
Yeah.
I mean, nobody I know really uses Facebook that much anymore, at least in my close circle. And if I adopted that as my worldview, I would be greatly underestimating the impact Facebook still has on a large scale.
Yeah.
So don't, if you're one of those people who's like, I have Facebook, like it's still there. It's still real. It's got big reach.
Yeah, sure does.
So, I mean, how is it different from Instagram? Like it actually does have some different features that are uniquely valuable, I think.
Totally. I think there's some really good tools you can leverage in Facebook. And I think there's a couple principles we have to get down. First is, Facebook has what I consider a wider reach than Instagram. Instagram, I think, skews more towards the younger audience. So if that's, super applicable to you, and that's where your business model is focused towards those younger folks, maybe that's the better option. And again, there's no right or wrong here, but these are all tools available. Facebook's going to have a lot more, variance in age demographics. And I think principally the difference in my mind is Instagram, you're always looking for new folks, new engagement, new people to jump on and join your following. Whereas I think Facebook, you shouldn't necessarily focus on reaching the most people, but getting the right content in front of the right people. So something that's awesome about Facebook, Adam, and you brought up some tools. They do group stuff really well, right? We noticed some of our coaches at TrainHeroic use Facebook groups to help kind of, like I said, bring content to their people. And that's a really good tool. And the thought process there obviously is engage the people you already have in your community, opposed to Instagram, which is like, go out and get new folks, share what you know with new people who might not be familiar with your offer.
Yeah, I think something you said there was, the way I put it was that Facebook may not be the best tool for every demographic, but you probably can find that demographic on Facebook.
Exactly right. That's a really good point. A better way of saying that. I wish I said that. But and I think to put some numbers to my point, like a good metric for providing your people value is 8 out of every 10 posts you put on Facebook should provide value. So what does that mean? That means, sharing exercise tips, nutrition tips, bringing value to people's day-to-day lives. And then you have, room for maybe 2 posts where you can do a hard sell of a product or an offering. Now, something you got to keep in mind is like the more you post on Facebook, that subsequent post, the one you posted before, is going to lose about 60% engagement. It's just going to drop down your feed. So keep that in mind when you're posting. Leave yourself like 6 to 8 hours between each post, and that should give you some good opportunity to optimize those things.
Yeah. How do you think you can drive engagement with those posts instead of just having it, people scan by them or just kind of read over it and go on their way?
Yeah, we call that stopping the scroll, right? I mean, it's really all about using strong imagery and titles as well as, video content. In social media, video overall gets 1,200% more saves or shares than any image or context or image or text-based posts. So the key with videos is people love videos. Make sure you have, like subtitles, because not everyone's going to be having their sound on. But you got to have vibrant like thumbnails so people know exactly what they're diving into when they dive into that video. You can also use hashtags on Facebook, which I think is overlooked. I mean, people can search and find those things to create more engagement. I mean, Adam, there's a ton of tools you can use. One of my favorite ones, and let's stick to the video topic, is create episodes. So you have like episode 1, people dive in, then they kind of naturally want to go to episode 2. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Remember, Facebook and Instagram, it's all about how long can they keep people on your page. It's an advertisement thing, right? They sell stuff through these things. So keep that in mind. Stop the scroll.
There are other tools too. Asking a question is a good way, right? Especially if you've kind of poking the bear a little bit, trying to rile people up and get them invested in arguing. It works, right? People want to. People want a great conversation. Yeah. Polls can be good too for the same reason, right? You can ask people what they think of a certain subject, that kind of thing. So and then that those are ways to like not just put things in front of people's eyeballs, but to get them to actually interact with them, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, it's all about the interaction. And another tip, and again, take this for whatever channels you're using. You kind of want to have content that's on your phone or on your camera that you can upload directly to the platform, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it may be. That way you have that content, you can repost it. And sometimes that second post actually has more engagement than that first one. So keep that in mind. Always store your stuff on some type of hard drive so you have it.
Cool. That's going to do it for us today. Go to TrainHeroic.com, start your 14-day free trial. We've got low pricing in there starting as low as $9.99 to suit any kind of coach.
All right, that's going to do it for episode 308 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Remember, you can try strengthcoach.com out for 30 days. Just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every single day answering questions. To access that offer, go to strengthcoach.com. Click the Join Now button to get started on your trial. Special thanks to Chris Parry and the folks over at Perform Better. Remember, the app is live. It features amazing presentations from last year's virtual summer seminar series, as well as some earlier functional training summits. They're also doing a weekly educational series. This week, Tuesday, April 6th, Dwayne Carlisle will do winning strategies for generating a 7-figure net worth for fitness and sports performance professionals. Check it all out at performbetter.com. Thanks to Coach Boyle for sharing his insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning and performance enhancement. Thanks to Anomaly, helping build relationships through personalized communication so your members stay longer and pay longer. Go to anomaly.com to check out what they're doing and use the referral code STRENGTHCOACH to get started on your free 30-day trial. Thanks to Tim and Adam and TrainHeroic. Coach Boyle and I both use TrainHeroic to deliver all of our online training. Head over to TrainHeroic.com and start your free 14-day trial. Thanks to Jenny Rearick of Fit to Speak. Check her out at fit-to-speak.com. Thanks to Kevin Carr and Brendon Rearick. Check them out at certifiedfsc.com. My name's Anthony Renna. You can check out my stuff and the show notes at continuefit.com. That's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you next time.